you are not behind in life at all, but you are just on your own timeline, okay? Have you ever been in a state in your life whereby you had to really look at someone else's life and then you just quietly ask yourself, why am I not there yet in life? Maybe you have someone that you know that is already married. Maybe someone else has a successful business. Maybe someone is buying a new house. Maybe someone is getting married. Maybe someone is traveling. Maybe someone has found their own purpose in life. Maybe someone is achieving the things that you thought you would have already achieved by now in your life. And then you look at your own life and you started thinking, maybe I am behind in life. But what if I told you something that might completely change the way and then manner that you look at your life forever? Maybe you are not behind in life as you may think. Maybe you have simply been measuring your own life with a timeline that was never designed for you. And that is why in today's video, I want us to really look at this from a different angle, because sometimes what we call being behind in life is actually something else entirely. So let us do what? Talk about it today, okay? Who told you what on time looks like? Let us start here. Who decided that by a certain age, you must have achieved, certain things in your life? Who decided that success has to really happen in a particular order? Who decided that life should look like this for you? I mean, school, career, marriage, house, children, business, success. And if your life does not follow that sequence or order, you start to feel like you are failed in life or you are a failure yourself. But here is the problem. That is not a law of life, but it is simply a timeline that our society has taught many of us to expect in life. And because we have seen other people follow it, we start believing that it is the only correct way to live our lives. But your life is not a school examination whereby everyone receives the same question paper and has to submit their answers at the same time, okay? And that is why I want you to know that in reality, different people have different circumstances. For example, different opportunities, different responsibilities, different starting points in life, different lessons in life, and different destinations in life. So, why would we now expect everyone to arrive at the same place at the same time in our success? You may be comparing your behind the scene to someone else's highlights in life. This is something that we don't really talk about always, or we don't talk about it enough. You always see someone else's achievements, but you don't see everything that really happened before ever the achievement came to place. You see the business, but you don't see the years of uncertainty. You see the relationship fine, but you don't see what they had to learn before ever finding that relationship, or before ever that relationship became successful for them. You see the success, but you don't see the failures before the success arrive in their lives. You see the finished pictures while you are still looking at the unfinished parts, of your own life. And that is an unfair comparison. Don't you think so? Because you are really comparing your chapter 3 of your life to someone else's chapter 12. And this is exactly what I call an unfair comparison. And after making this unfair comparison, you are now, asking yourself this question: why is my story not the same as their own story? My dear friend, stop torturing yourself with those words, because it is not supposed to be so, okay? Sometimes the delays that you often experience in your life is actually teaching you something that, the destination cannot, really teach you. Okay? Now, here is where I really want you to look at your life differently, because sometimes we become so focused on getting somewhere to the point that we don't, ask what we are supposed to become along the way as we go. Now, maybe you are not getting the opportunity that you really want in your life yet, because there are, certain things that you still need to learn before you are supposed to get it. Maybe you are being forced to develop patience, discipline, wisdom, emotional maturity, courage, independence. Maybe the season that you keep on calling delay in your life is actually developing something in you that success alone could never, never teach you at all. So think about it, okay? If you are able to receive everything that you wanted in your life before you were ready to handle it, would having it actually make your life better? That is a question you have to answer. See, the truth is this: we don't need the next door to open immediately. Sometimes we need to become ready for what is really behind that door. If not, we will just end up doing what? Regretting. Okay? Be careful of what you call a waste of time in your life. There may be seasons of your life that you look back on and then you think, I wasted so many years. But what if those years were not completely wasted as you may think? What if those years really taught you what you don't want to know? What if they showed you who you can really trust in your life? What if those years really helped you to discover your strengths that is hidden in life? What if they made you more compassionate towards other people in life? What if those years really forced you to grow in ways that comfort can never, help you to do? Not every season produces visible results in your life, because sometimes some seasons will produce roots in our lives. And you know what? Roots are not impressive, because when you look at a tree, the roots are most times hidden, but without them, the tree cannot stand. So do not despise those seasons in your life, because you cannot see what it is really producing yet, okay? Your life does not have to look impressive to be meaningful at all. And so we have been taught, to always measure our progress by the things that we can actually see. For example, money, followers, titles, relationships, properties, achievements. But some of the most important progress in your life may be what you cannot see. For example, maybe you are becoming more disciplined in life. Maybe you are actually learning to say no when you are supposed to say no. Maybe you are becoming emotionally stronger in life. Maybe you are finally being able to set boundaries in your life. Maybe you are learning to forgive. Maybe you are becoming more responsible. Maybe you are learning how to really enjoy your own company. So you will no longer complain that you are lonely. Nobody may really applaud those things because you can't really see it, but they are still progress. And that is why I want you to know that it is not all growth that is visible, because sometimes the greatest changes in your life really happens before anyone else can even see them. Okay? And so stop turning someone else's milestone into your deadline. Someone gets married, fine, and suddenly you start to feel behind. Someone gets promoted and suddenly you start to feel behind. Someone, starts a business and the business is doing well that you see, and suddenly you start to feel behind. Someone has a baby and suddenly you start to feel behind. Someone becomes successful and suddenly you start to feel behind. But I want you to know that their milestone was never your own deadline. Okay? So read that again in your mind, that someone else's milestone in life is not automatically your own deadline in your own life. So you don't have to rush into something simply because someone else has really entered, that season. A relationship entered from panic can really create what problems for you. A career that is choosing from pressure can really become a prison for you. A business started simply because someone else is doing it can leave you what? Exhausted. So don't let someone else's progress to pressure you into making decisions that don't really what belong to you. Okay, now there is a difference between being patient and being passive. Now, I want to be very careful here. Saying I am on my own timeline would never become an excuse for you doing nothing, because your timeline still requires what? Your participation. So if you really want to grow in any area of your life, then start learning. If you want to better your career, then start to develop on your own skills. If you want, stronger relationships, then start to become a better communicator. If you want, to get financial stability, then you have to start learning how to actually manage and then grow what you already have at hand. If you have a dream, then do not waste your time, but take that next bold step. Okay? Now, I want you to know that being on your own timeline does not really mean you sitting still, but what it truly means is you stopping to compare your speed to everyone else's speed while continuing to move. That is really the difference, okay? Maybe you are not late. Maybe you are being redirected. Sometimes you work incredibly hard for something and it did not happen the way you expected it. And so you think, I have failed. But later, you discover another opportunity. You discover a different direction, a different purpose, a different version of yourself. And suddenly, what used to look like rejection begins to look like redirection for you. And so you smile and then you say, thank God, oh. You don't always understand the meaning of a closed door while you are standing in front of it, because sometimes you understand it years later and not immediately. So don't be quick to always label every closed door in your life as a ruined future, because some doors have to really close because they are simply not your destination, okay? And so don't rush your life just to prove that you are doing well. This one is very important, my dear friend. Sometimes we are not, actually chasing the things that we really want in our life, but we are rather chasing after the feeling of being able to tell other people, for example, look, I have made it. And that is very dangerous because you can build, an impressive life that you don't actually enjoy. And most people are in this state. You can achieve things that look amazing from the outside and still feel very empty on the inside. So before you chase your next milestone in life, ask yourself, do I actually want this for myself? Or do I just want people to think that I am successful? This is a question you need to answer. That question can save you years of regrets in your life, okay? Your next chapter does not need to look like your last chapter. Maybe you made mistakes. Maybe you changed your direction. Maybe something didn't work out for you as you have always expected it to be, and that is just okay and fine. Maybe you started later than you wanted in life. Maybe you had to begin again. Please, that does not mean that your story is ruined or it is over, because you are always allowed to change. You are always allowed to start again. You are always allowed to discover that the dream that you had 5 years ago is not the dream that you have today, because life is not a straight line. Because sometimes you have to move forward. Sometimes you have to just take a different road altogether. Sometimes you just have to do a stop. Sometimes you begin again. But what truly matters is that you keep on learning and then you keep on doing what? Moving. Now, here is the shift that I really want you to make today. The next time that you look at someone else's life and think, I am behind, please pause for a moment and then ask yourself this important question that I'm about to ask. This behind that I am even thinking about self, the behind is according to who? Then ask yourself again, Am I actually behind, or am I simply in a different season in my life? And you should finally ask yourself, what can I really do with the season that I am in right now in my life? Because that is where your power is. And your power is not in wishing that you were somewhere else. But your power is not even in obsessing over somebody else's timeline, but your power is rather in making the most out of wherever that you are actually present in your life. If you have to remember only one thing from today's video, then remember this: your life is not late just because it doesn't look exactly like someone else's life. You don't need to arrive at the same time as everyone else. You need to arrive at your own and in your own pace. So stop measuring your life against someone else's clock. Stop turning their milestones into your deadlines in life. Stop assuming that an invisible season means nothing is really happening. Therefore, keep on learning, keep on growing, keep on taking that next step, and trust that a meaningful life does not have to follow a perfectly, predictable schedule. Okay? Now, I want you to pay a very close attention to what I am about to tell you right now. Now, listen. Maybe you are not behind in life as you may think. Maybe you are just becoming. Maybe you are just preparing. Maybe you are being redirected. Maybe your story have not simply reached the point that you are actually waiting for yet in life. Because I strongly believe that one day, you may look back at the season in your life that you are desperately, wanting to escape from. And then you will realize that it was rather preparing you for the life that you were really asking for or wishing for. Okay? If you really appreciate videos that don't just motivate you for just 5 minutes, but videos that actually give you a different way to look at life, then consider subscribing to this channel, because this is exactly where I am trying to build this channel to. Okay, by helping you with simple lessons that can really stay with you long after the video ends, so that you can now see life from a different angle, like learning something useful and becoming a little wiser with every lesson. Okay? Do not forget to like this video, share this video with your loved ones, and I would love to hear from you also in the comment section of this video. What is one thing that you used to think about that made you to feel that you were behind in life, but right now, after watching this very video, you now see it differently? Please drop your answer in the comment section of this video, because maybe your answer will be exactly what someone else really needs to read today, to help them to actually experience, that change that they so desire to take place in their life. Okay? Thank you so much for watching today's video. And remember always that you are not competing with someone else's timeline, but you are rather building quietly a life that is really yours. Therefore, keep on going, because your story is still being written. Please take good care of yourself and let us continue in my next video. Okay?